August 1859, Morrow Creek, Louisiana. In a dimly lit room, Dr. Elizabeth Monroe sat at her desk, hands trembling as she dipped her pen into ink. The candle beside her flickered, casting shadows across the leather journal before her. Outside, crickets and cicadas filled the suffocating heat with their endless chorus. But inside that room, all Elizabeth could hear was her own heartbeat and the soft, unwavering voice of the 7-year-old black child standing in the corner, Samuel Carter. Dark skin the color of rich Mississippi soil, eyes that never blinked, that seemed to look through you instead of at you. A child born into slavery who could describe the internal anatomy of the human heart without ever opening a medical textbook. A boy who spoke with a vocabulary that would humble university scholars. A mind so extraordinary that every law of science Elizabeth had studied in Philadelphia couldn't begin to explain what she witnessed daily. The voices say, "One more is coming tonight, doctor." The boy's words hung in the air like smoke. A man who sold children. He won't see sunrise. Elizabeth had learned to trust these predictions. Over the past 7 months, 9 people had died after encountering Samuel Carter. Not random deaths, not coincidences. Every single person had been guilty of unspeakable crimes against enslaved people, particularly children. And every single death came exactly as Samuel predicted, with the victims found with their eyes frozen wide open, their faces locked in expressions of absolute terror. 3 hours after Samuel spoke those words, Marcus Thornton, one of the wealthiest plantation owners in Ascension Parish, was found dead in his carriage on the road home. Eyes wide open, mouth stretched in a silent scream. No visible wounds, no clear cause of death, just pure distilled terror written across his face. This was the 9th death, the 9th prediction that came true with horrifying accuracy. And Dr. Elizabeth Monroe knew, as she wrote in her journal by candlelight, that she was documenting something that would either revolutionize medical science or get them both killed. What Elizabeth didn't know was that her journals would be hidden in an attic for over 100 years. That the official records would be destroyed during the Civil War. That Samuel Carter's story would be erased so completely from history that even speaking his name would draw blank stares. Because Samuel Carter represented something that white America in 1859 could never, ever accept. Proof that a black child born into bondage, denied formal education, could possess an intelligence that exceeded the finest white minds of the era. Proof that the entire foundation of slavery, built on claims of black inferiority, was nothing but a lie. They couldn't allow his story to survive, so they buried it. They destroyed the evidence. They erased him from history as thoroughly as if he had never existed, until now. By the end of this video, you're going to know the true story of Samuel Carter, the black child genius whose abilities terrified the American South. You're going to understand why his case was systematically erased from every history book, every medical journal, every record that might prove what he could do. You're going to see how his story connects to the ongoing suppression of black intelligence that continues in 2026. In schools where gifted programs are 70% white, even when the school is majority black. In systems that still fear black brilliance more than they fear black rebellion. This isn't ancient history. This is your history. Your great-great-grandparents lived in this era. Your ancestors survived the same system that tried to destroy Samuel Carter. And understanding what happened to him will help you understand why they still try to convince your children they're not smart enough, not gifted enough, not capable enough. After this video, you'll never see the American education system the same way again. You'll understand why only 2% of doctors in America are black. You'll understand why the wealth gap exists. You'll understand why they're so terrified of critical race theory being taught in schools. Because if you learn the truth about Samuel Carter and the thousands like him, if you understand how systematically they suppressed black genius for 400 years, then you'll know that every struggle your family faces today isn't your fault. It was engineered, it was planned, it was policy. And you'll know that you are owed, not charity, not handouts, but restoration of what was stolen. So let me take you back to where it all began. To a cotton plantation in Louisiana where a child was born who would change everything, if only they had let his story be told. Samuel Carter came into this world in the spring of 1852 on the Whitmore Plantation, one of the largest cotton operations in Ascension Parish, Louisiana. His mother, Esther Carter, worked in the main house, cooking and cleaning for the Whitmore family. But Esther carried a dangerous secret. Despite laws that made it illegal to teach enslaved people to read and write, despite punishments that included whipping, mutilation, or death, Esther had learned. And she was determined that her son would learn too. Behind the kitchen house, in stolen moments when the overseers weren't watching, Esther would trace letters in the dirt with a stick. S-A-M-U-E-L, she would write, then quickly smooth the earth before anyone saw. The boy learned in whispers and shadows, absorbing knowledge that could get them both killed if discovered. Samuel's father was never recorded in any official document. His name is lost to history. He was sold away before Samuel's second birthday, sent to another plantation, another state, another life. Esther never spoke of him, but sometimes young Samuel would wake in the night to find his mother sitting by the window, tears streaming down her face as she stared into the darkness beyond the slave quarters. Even as a very small child, Samuel was different. The other enslaved people on the Whitmore plantation noticed it first. There was something in his eyes, they whispered. Something old, something knowing, something that shouldn't exist in someone so young. He would stare at people with an intensity that made them uncomfortable, as if he could see through their skin and into their souls. Old Jeremiah, the eldest among the enslaved community, told the others that Samuel had been born with a caul over his face, a thin membrane of tissue covering his head at birth. In the traditions that survived the Middle Passage, in the spiritual practices that enslaved people kept alive despite every attempt to strip them of their culture, a caul birth meant the child had the sight, the ability to see into both worlds, the world of the living and the world of the dead. That boy got the sight, Jeremiah warned the others. He know things that ain't meant to be known by folks still walking this earth. But it wasn't just spiritual ability that made Samuel extraordinary. When he was 4 years old, Robert Whitmore, the plantation owner, caught Samuel drawing in the dirt near the slave quarters. Whitmore expected to see childish scribbles, the meaningless marks that young children make. Instead, he found himself staring at detailed anatomical sketches of the human heart. Chambers clearly delineated, major vessels accurately placed, and labels written in careful, precise script. "Where did you learn to write, boy?" Whitmore's voice was sharp with suspicion and something else, something that might have been fear. Samuel looked up at him with those dark, unblinking eyes, and said simply, "The voices teach me. They show me things in my mind that I draw in the dirt. They say the body is just a house, and when the house breaks, the person inside has to leave." This response terrified Robert Whitmore in a way he couldn't fully articulate, even to himself. He lived in a society built on a very specific lie. The lie that black people were inherently inferior, mentally limited, incapable of the intellectual achievements of white people. This lie justified everything. It justified slavery, justified brutal working conditions, justified separating families, justified treating human beings as property. And here was a 4-year-old black child, born into bondage, with no formal education whatsoever, demonstrating knowledge of human anatomy that most white adults didn't possess, speaking with clarity and vocabulary that shouldn't be possible, creating accurate medical illustrations in the dirt. Samuel represented something dangerous. He was a living proof that the entire system was built on a lie. If a slave child could be this brilliant, this perceptive, this extraordinary without any education or opportunity, what did that say about the claims of natural black inferiority that justified the entire institution of slavery? Robert Whitmore couldn't reconcile this. He couldn't accept it, and he couldn't allow it to continue under his roof. But before Whitmore made his fateful decision about what to do with Samuel, tragedy struck. Esther, Samuel's mother, developed a persistent cough. It started small, just a tickle in her throat, but it grew worse, deeper, more painful. Soon she was coughing so hard that blood flecked the rags she held to her mouth. Samuel was only 4 years old, but he understood what was happening with a clarity that frightened his mother. He would sit beside her at night in their cramped quarters, his small hand clutching hers, and he would tell her things that no child should know. "Mama," he whispered one night, his voice carrying a weight that seemed impossible from someone so young. "The sickness is in your chest like a flower growing. It has roots that spread. The voices in the swamp tell me it will take you before the cotton blooms again." Esther tried to comfort her son, tried to tell him everything would be fine. But Samuel's eyes held a certainty that couldn't be denied. He saw what was coming. He knew. Robert Whitmore refused to call a doctor for a slave. Esther was property, not a person deserving of medical care. He insisted she continue her duties despite her deteriorating condition, cooking, cleaning, working until she collapsed. 3 months later, in February of 1856, Esther Carter died. She coughed blood into rags that 4-year-old Samuel tried desperately to keep clean. She died in a corner of the plantation designated for enslaved people, without medical treatment, without dignity, without even a marked grave. Samuel was there when she took her last breath. He held her hand. He watched the life leave her eyes, and he did not cry. At her funeral, while the other enslaved people sang spirituals over her grave, in the unmarked corner where black bodies were laid to rest, Samuel stood silent and still. When someone asked why he didn't weep, why he showed no emotion, Samuel said something that sent chills through everyone present. "She's still here. She talks to me now, like the others in the swamp. She says she's finally free." The other enslaved people began to fear the child after that. There was something profoundly unsettling about a 4-year-old who spoke of death with such calm acceptance, who claimed to hear the voices of the dead, who knew things he shouldn't know. And Robert Whitmore's discomfort grew into something approaching dread. This child was too smart, too strange, too threatening to the natural order he believed in. Something had to be done. In the summer of 1856, when Samuel was 4.5 years old, Robert Whitmore made a decision that would change the boy's life forever. He sold Samuel to a slave trader passing through the parish, got rid of the child who made him uncomfortable, the child who challenged his worldview simply by existing. Samuel was torn from the only home he had ever known, separated from the community that had raised him after his mother's death, loaded onto a wagon with other enslaved people being transported north along the Mississippi River. The slave trader, a man named Cyrus Blackwood, believed Samuel would fetch a premium price. The boy was too unusual, too intelligent to waste in cotton fields. Perhaps a wealthy family would want him as a curiosity. Perhaps a medical institution would pay well to study such an exceptional case. But Samuel never made it to auction. During a stop in Morrow Creek, Louisiana, something happened that would alter the course of his life and reveal the true extent of his extraordinary abilities. Cyrus Blackwood, the slave trader, suddenly fell violently ill. It came on without warning. One moment he was conducting business in a boarding house. The next, he was on the floor, his body racked with convulsions, seizures so powerful that grown men had to hold him down. Blood poured from his nose and ears. His eyes rolled back in his head. The local doctor was called, but could do nothing. Within hours, Cyrus Blackwood was dead. Samuel was there when it happened, standing calmly in the corner of the boarding house room, watching with those unblinking dark eyes as Blackwood thrashed and screamed. When the local authorities questioned the child, asking if he knew anything about what happened, Samuel said only this: he hurt children. The voices told me what he did. They said his time was finished. At first, the authorities dismissed this as the confused statement of a traumatized child. But then they began investigating Cyrus Blackwood's background, and what they found was disturbing. Over the past 5 years, numerous enslaved children in Blackwood's custody had died under suspicious circumstances. Disappearances explained away as runaways. Bodies found in rivers and marked as drownings. Sudden illnesses that struck only after Blackwood had purchased a child. Samuel had somehow known things about Blackwood that no one had been willing to investigate. Secrets that died with the traitor in that boarding house room. A pattern of child murder that had gone unpunished because the victims were black children and the perpetrator was a white man with money. This was the first death connected to Samuel Carter, but it would not be the last, not even close. With no one to claim ownership of Samuel and no legal guardian willing to take responsibility for a slave child with no papers, the boy found himself in an unprecedented situation. He was technically free, though that word meant almost nothing for a black child in Louisiana in 1856. The local authorities considered sending him to an orphanage, but those institutions refused to accept a black child. He was too young to be put to work, too strange to be adopted by any local families, and too intelligent to be ignored. It was Dr. Elizabeth Monroe who ultimately took Samuel into her household. And this decision would lead to one of the most extraordinary and terrifying chapters in American medical history. Elizabeth Monroe was a rarity in the antebellum South. A woman who had studied medicine in Philadelphia, one of the few institutions that would train female physicians. She had returned to Louisiana after inheriting property from her father, using her independence to live according to her own principles. And those principles included a quiet but firm opposition to slavery. When Elizabeth heard about the strange black child who had been present when Cyrus Blackwood died, her medical curiosity was piqued. When she met Samuel and looked into those dark, knowing eyes, she felt something she had never experienced before. A mixture of fascination, fear, and an overwhelming sense that this child needed protection from a world that would destroy him if given the chance. "What is your name?" Dr. Monroe asked when Samuel was brought to her home by the local sheriff, who was frankly relieved to have someone willing to take responsibility for the boy. Samuel looked at her with that intense, unblinking gaze and said, "Samuel Carter. My mama named me Samuel because it means God has heard. She said I was born to hear things that others couldn't hear, to know things that others didn't know." The voices started talking to me before I could talk back to them. Dr. Monroe was not a superstitious woman. She had been trained in the rational methods of scientific medicine, taught to trust observation and evidence over folklore and fear. But there was something about Samuel that challenged her commitment to pure rationalism. The boy spoke with a clarity and vocabulary that should have been impossible for an illiterate child of his age. He described anatomical structures with precision that medical students struggle to achieve. And when he talked about the voices, there was no hint of madness or confusion in his demeanor, only a calm acceptance of a reality that others couldn't perceive. Dr. Monroe made Samuel a proposition. He could stay in her household, not as a servant or a ward, but as a subject of medical study. She would provide him with food, shelter, and education in exchange for his cooperation in helping her understand his unusual abilities. "I want to document what you can do," she explained. "I want to understand how your mind works. But I will not treat you as a specimen or a curiosity. You will be treated with dignity and respect. And if at any time you wish to leave, I will help you find another situation." Samuel considered her offer with a seriousness that seemed far beyond his years. When he finally spoke, his words sent a chill down Elizabeth's spine. "The voices say you're different from the others. They say you see people as people, not as property or problems. They say you're trying to understand things that scare most folks. I'll stay with you, Dr. Monroe. But you need to know something. The people who come near me, the people who mean harm or carry darkness in their hearts, they don't live very long. I don't kill them. I just know when death is coming for them. And sometimes the voices make sure it happens faster than it would have otherwise." This statement should have frightened Dr. Monroe away. Any rational person would have sent the child somewhere else, anywhere else. But instead, it deepened her fascination. She had studied cases of unusual mental abilities in her medical training, stories of people with exceptional memory, individuals who could perform complex mathematical calculations instantly, children who could reproduce musical compositions after hearing them only once. But Samuel seemed to represent something different, something that bridged the gap between exceptional cognitive ability and something that her scientific framework couldn't easily categorize. He wasn't just intelligent. He seemed to possess knowledge that he couldn't have acquired through normal learning. He didn't just have good intuition. He appeared to know specific details about people and events that no observation could have revealed. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe began her systematic study of Samuel Carter in August of 1856, just weeks after he came to live in her home. She created 2 leather-bound journals filling them with detailed records of their daily interactions. She documented his statements, his behaviors, the uncanny accuracy of his predictions. And what she discovered both amazed and terrified her. Samuel could describe the internal organs of the human body with perfect accuracy despite never having seen an anatomy text or witnessed a medical procedure. He could predict when people were going to become ill, often weeks before the first symptoms appeared. He knew intimate details about the lives of people he had never met, their fears, their secrets, their sins. "How do you know these things?" Dr. Monroe asked repeatedly, trying to find a rational explanation for abilities that seemed to defy natural law. Samuel's answer was always the same. "The voices tell me. They come from the swamp, from the place where the dead go, but don't rest. They're people who died with unfinished business, with truths that need to be told. They use me to speak because I was born with the ability to hear them. My mama said it runs in our family. My grandmother had it, and her mother before her. It's a gift and a curse, Dr. Monroe. I know things I don't want to know. I see things I wish I couldn't see." Elizabeth filled page after page with observations. Samuel's vocabulary exceeded that of most adults. His understanding of anatomy surpassed what she had learned in her first year of medical school. His predictions about illness and death proved accurate with terrifying consistency. But it was what happened next that would truly test her scientific rationalism and force her to confront the possibility that Samuel Carter was something beyond her ability to explain. The first death that occurred after Samuel came to live with Dr. Monroe happened in September of 1856. Marcus Thornton, a wealthy plantation owner from a neighboring parish, came to Marrow Creek for business. He stopped by Dr. Monroe's home to consult about persistent stomach pains that had been troubling him for weeks. Samuel was in the house when Thornton arrived. The boy's reaction was immediate and visceral. He backed away from the man, his dark eyes wide with something that looked like recognition and horror combined. "You shouldn't be here," Samuel said, his voice carrying an authority that seemed impossible coming from such a small child. "The voices are screaming about you. They say you killed 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. They say you buried them where no one would look, in the old cemetery behind your plantation house where the slave graves are unmarked. They say the children cry in the night and their mothers still search for them." The color drained from Marcus Thornton's face. Then red rage flooded back. "How dare this slave child speak to me this way?" he shouted at Dr. Monroe. "Control your property, or I'll have him whipped for insolence." But there was something in Thornton's reaction that went beyond mere offense at a breach of social protocol. There was genuine fear in his eyes, the look of a man whose darkest secrets had been exposed to the light. Dr. Monroe, despite her discomfort with the situation, defended Samuel. "He is not my property, Mr. Thornton. He is under my protection, and I would appreciate it if you would leave my home immediately." Thornton stormed out, his stomach pains apparently forgotten in his rage and fear. He climbed into his carriage and whipped his horses into motion, racing back toward his plantation 20 miles away. He never made it home. 3 days later, Marcus Thornton was found dead in his carriage on the road. The horses had stopped, still hitched to the vehicle, calmly grazing by the roadside. But inside the carriage, Thornton sat with his eyes wide open, frozen in an expression of absolute terror. His mouth was stretched in a silent scream. There were marks on his neck that looked almost like finger impressions, though no one had been with him in the carriage. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, but Dr. Monroe, who was called to examine the body, knew this was no simple heart attack. When Dr. Monroe returned home and told Samuel what had happened, the boy showed no surprise whatsoever. The voices said he wouldn't make it home. Samuel's tone was matter of fact, almost sad. They said the children he killed were waiting for him on the road. They said it was time for him to answer for what he did. Elizabeth felt ice run through her veins. "Samuel," she said carefully, "are you telling me that you somehow caused Mr. Thornton's death?" The boy shook his head slowly. "I didn't cause anything, Dr. Monroe. I just knew it was going to happen. The voices don't lie about these things. When they say someone's time is finished, when they say someone has debts to pay in blood and suffering, it always comes true. I'm just the messenger." Investigation into Thornton's plantation revealed exactly what Samuel had described. In the old slave cemetery, hidden beneath unmarked graves, authorities found the remains of 3 children. 2 boys aged approximately 8 and 10. A girl who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. All showed signs of violence that had nothing to do with the harsh realities of slavery and everything to do with sadistic cruelty. The enslaved community on Thornton's plantation, when finally given the opportunity to speak without fear of reprisal, shared stories of children who had disappeared over the years, of Thornton's private quarters, where screams were sometimes heard in the night, of a monster who wore the mask of a respected gentleman. Samuel had known all of this without ever setting foot on Thornton's property. He had known it the moment he saw the man, as if the voices from the swamp had whispered every terrible detail into his mind. This was not coincidence. This was not lucky guessing. This was something that Dr. Monroe's medical training had not prepared her to understand or explain. And it was only the beginning. The second death came in October, just weeks after Thornton's mysterious demise. Reverend Silas Jameson was the pastor of Morrow Creek's largest church, a man who preached about Christian charity and divine grace every Sunday, while quietly profiting from the slave trade during the week. He served as an agent for several plantations, helping to arrange sales and transfers of enslaved people while taking a commission on each transaction. To his white congregation, he was a pillar of the community. To the black population of Morrow Creek, he was something else entirely. A man who used scripture to justify cruelty. A man who used his position of trust to enable the separation of families and the perpetuation of suffering. Samuel encountered Reverend Jameson at the general store in town, where Dr. Monroe had taken him to purchase supplies. The Reverend approached them with his characteristic smile, the one that never quite reached his eyes. "Dr. Monroe," he said warmly, "I see you've taken in young Samuel. What a charitable act. Though I must caution you about the dangers of educating these people beyond their station. God has ordained their place in society, and to disturb that natural order is to invite chaos and disorder." Samuel looked up at the Reverend with those dark, penetrating eyes. "You don't believe in God." The boy's voice was quiet, but clear. "The voices say you stopped believing years ago after you sold a woman and her baby to different buyers. The woman killed herself and the baby died within a month. You tell yourself it was just business, but the voices say you hear that woman crying in your dreams every night. They say you drink yourself to sleep trying to forget, but you never can. They say your time is coming soon and you'll have to face all the people you hurt, all the families you destroyed. The change in Reverend Jameson's expression was immediate and terrifying. The warm facade dropped away, revealing something cold and vicious underneath. "That boy is possessed by demons," he hissed at Dr. Monroe. "He speaks blasphemy and lies. I will pray for his soul, but I warn you, keeping him in your home is inviting evil into your life." He left the store quickly, his hands shaking, his face pale beneath his carefully maintained beard. 2 weeks later, Reverend Silas Jameson was found dead in his study, slumped over his desk with an empty bottle of laudanum beside him. The official verdict was suicide, a tragedy explained away as a sudden mental breakdown brought on by exhaustion and melancholy. But Dr. Monroe, examining the body at the request of the local authorities, noted that the Reverend's eyes held that same look of terror she had seen in Thornton's corpse, and his desk was covered with papers. Letters he had been writing to various people, apparently attempting to make amends for past actions. One letter was addressed to a woman named Sarah, apologizing for selling her and her infant son to separate buyers 15 years earlier. The letter was unfinished, ending mid-sentence, as if Jameson had been interrupted by something that terrified him so completely that he chose death over facing it. When Dr. Monroe returned home and found Samuel sitting quietly in the parlor, reading a book she had been teaching him to decipher, she didn't know what to say. The boy looked up at her with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of sorrow and knowledge. He couldn't live with what he'd done anymore. Samuel said it softly, almost gently. The voices followed him everywhere. They whispered the names of all the people he'd hurt, all the families he'd broken apart. They showed him what happened to Sarah's baby, how the child died crying for his mother in a plantation far away. The Reverend always knew it was wrong, Dr. Monroe. He just chose money and position over doing what was right. The voices don't forgive that kind of choice. Dr. Monroe sat down heavily in her chair, her medical rationalism struggling against the evidence accumulating before her eyes. "Samuel," she said carefully, "you need to understand how dangerous this is. People are dying after they encounter you. Even if you're not directly causing their deaths, the connection is becoming obvious. There are people in this town who already fear you, who see you as something unnatural. If more deaths occur, I won't be able to protect you from accusations of witchcraft or demonic possession." Samuel closed his book and looked at her with an expression of profound sadness. "I know, Dr. Monroe. I've always known. That's why my people have always kept gifts like mine hidden. That's why my mama taught me to be quiet, to never let the white folks see what I could really do. But sometimes the voices are so loud that I can't help but speak. Sometimes the things they show me are so terrible that staying silent feels like being part of the evil. I didn't ask for this gift, but I have it. And the voices say there's a reason, that I'm supposed to help bring truth to light, even when the truth is painful and dangerous." Over the following months, the pattern continued. People who came into contact with Samuel, people who carried guilt or evil in their hearts, began dying under mysterious circumstances. Not everyone. Only those whom the voices marked as deserving of judgment. William Drake, a slave catcher known for his particular cruelty in pursuing runaways, suffered a fatal accident when his horse inexplicably bolted and threw him against a tree, breaking his neck. Samuel had seen Drake in town 2 days before and had told Dr. Monroe, "That man has killed 12 people trying to escape. He's hunted human beings like they were animals. The voices say he'll die the same way he killed others, sudden and violent. Catherine Bellamy, who ran a boarding house where enslaved people were temporarily housed before being sold, died in her sleep with her face frozen in a silent scream. Samuel had encountered her at the market and had said quietly, "She poisons the food when people don't cooperate." The voices showed me 3 women who died because they refused to stop crying for their children. She'll die by poison too, not from anyone's hand, but from the fear that eats her alive from the inside. Each death was technically explainable through natural causes or accidents: heart failure, suicide, accidental injury. But the pattern was unmistakable to anyone paying attention. Samuel Carter knew things he shouldn't know. He predicted deaths with uncanny accuracy. And the people who died were invariably those who had committed terrible acts, particularly acts of cruelty toward enslaved people. It was as if Samuel served as a conduit for some form of cosmic justice, a vessel through which the accumulated suffering and rage of his people found voice and retribution. Dr. Monroe's journals from this period reveal her growing confusion and fear. She was a scientist, trained to observe and document phenomena according to rational principles. But Samuel challenged every framework she had for understanding the world. She conducted tests, trying to determine if his knowledge came from some form of heightened observational ability, perhaps an exceptional memory that allowed him to recall and connect details that others missed. But the evidence consistently pointed to something beyond natural explanation. Samuel knew things he could not have observed. He described events he could not have witnessed. He predicted outcomes that no amount of careful deduction could have foreseen. The boy possesses knowledge that defies conventional explanation, Dr. Monroe wrote in her journal in January of 1857. He describes the internal structure of organs he has never seen dissected. He knows the names of diseases and their symptoms without having studied medicine. He can look at a person and tell me details about their past that he could not possibly have learned through normal means. Most disturbing of all, he predicts deaths with an accuracy that I can no longer dismiss as coincidence. I am forced to conclude that Samuel Carter either possesses some form of extrasensory perception that science has not yet discovered, or he is indeed in contact with something beyond our material world. As a physician and a woman of science, I find myself confronting the possibility that our understanding of human consciousness and the nature of reality itself may be fundamentally incomplete. But while Dr. Monroe wrestled with the scientific implications of Samuel's abilities, the community around them was reaching a very different conclusion. And their reaction would soon force Samuel to make a choice that would determine whether he lived or died. The community's reaction to Samuel grew increasingly hostile as the pattern of deaths became more obvious. White residents of Morrow Creek began to whisper that the boy was cursed, that he brought death wherever he went, that Dr. Monroe was foolish and dangerous for keeping him in her household. The enslaved population had a different reaction. Many saw Samuel as a kind of avenging angel, a child chosen by God or the ancestors to bring justice to those who had escaped earthly punishment. Old Jeremiah, who had been sold away from the Whitmore plantation and now worked at a nearby farm, sought out Samuel in February of 1857. He found the boy sitting by the edge of the swamp that bordered Dr. Monroe's property, staring out at the dark water and twisted trees. "Boy," Jeremiah said softly, "I need to talk to you about what you are and what you can do." Samuel looked up at him with those knowing eyes. "You're going to tell me about the old ways," Samuel said. about the people who came before us, the ones who brought their spirits and their power across the ocean. You're going to tell me that what I have isn't strange or evil. It's part of who we are as a people. Jeremiah sat down beside the child, his aged joints creaking with the motion. Your mama had it too, he said, and her mama before her. It goes back and back, all the way to Africa, to the old ways that we weren't supposed to remember. They tried to beat it out of us, tried to make us forget our power, but some families kept it alive, passed it down in whispers and warnings. What you have, Samuel, it's called different things by different people. Some call it the sight. Some call it walking between worlds. Some say it's the voice of the ancestors speaking through the living. Whatever name you give it, it's real and it's dangerous, especially for a black child in a world that don't want us to have any power at all. This conversation revealed something crucial. Samuel Carter wasn't an isolated anomaly. He was part of a tradition, part of a lineage of spiritual and intellectual power that had survived the Middle Passage, survived slavery, survived everything designed to destroy the soul of his people. But you need to be careful, boy, Jeremiah warned. The white folks are already scared of you. They're scared because you represent everything they tell themselves ain't true. That we're just as smart as them, just as capable, just as human. And now you're showing them something even more frightening, that maybe we got gifts and abilities that they don't understand and can't control. They'll come for you eventually, Samuel. They always come for the ones who show too much power, too much knowledge, too much light. You need to learn when to hide what you can do, when to play small so they don't destroy you. Samuel nodded slowly, understanding the wisdom in the old man's words. But even as he listened, he knew that hiding was not going to be possible for much longer. And Jeremiah was right. Because what happened next would prove just how terrified white society was of black genius, of black power, of anything that challenged their carefully constructed lies about racial inferiority. Samuel Carter was not the only black genius they tried to erase. Let me show you the pattern, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand what they did systematically for centuries, you'll know that every struggle your family faces today was engineered. Let me take you back even further, to 1724, to a 14-year-old boy kidnapped from Africa and brought in chains to Virginia. His name was Thomas Fuller. And what he could do with the numbers would astound the greatest mathematicians of his era. Thomas Fuller never learned to read or write. He was denied education completely, but he possessed something that no amount of suppression could destroy. A mind capable of performing complex mathematical calculations faster than men with pen and paper. In 1780, two white gentlemen decided to test Fuller's abilities. They asked him a question designed to be impossibly complex. How many seconds has a man lived who is 70 years, 17 days, and 12 hours old? Most people would need significant time with writing materials to solve this. You'd have to calculate days in a year, account for leap years, convert to hours, then to minutes, then to seconds. The math is complicated. Thomas Fuller gave them the correct answer in 90 seconds. 2,210,500,800 seconds. The men told him he was wrong. They had calculated a different number, but Fuller immediately pointed out their error. They had forgotten to account for leap years. When they recalculated, they discovered Fuller was right and they were wrong. Think about what this means. An enslaved man with no formal education just outperformed educated white men in their own test. He didn't just match them, he surpassed them and corrected their mistakes. When Thomas Fuller died in 1790, a newspaper wrote something extraordinary. Had his opportunity been equal to those of thousands of his fellow men, neither the Royal Society of London nor the Academy of Sciences at Paris would have disdained to admit him as a member. But here's what happened next. His name was erased from most historical records, removed from textbooks, buried in obscurity. Why? Because Thomas Fuller was too threatening to the narrative of black inferiority. If people knew that an enslaved African could perform mathematical calculations that rivaled the greatest minds in Europe, what would that do to the justification for slavery? So they erased him, made him disappear from history as thoroughly as if he never existed. But Thomas Fuller wasn't alone. Let me tell you about Benjamin Banneker. Born in 1731 in Maryland, the son of freed slaves, Benjamin Banneker was completely self-taught in mathematics and astronomy. At 22 years old, he examined a pocket watch for a few hours, then built a fully functional wooden clock entirely from memory. That clock ran accurately for over 50 years. But his greatest achievement came later. Banneker taught himself advanced astronomy and mathematics well enough to publish almanacs from 1792 to 1797. These almanacs predicted solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, and astronomical events with perfect accuracy. He was so skilled that Thomas Jefferson himself invited Banneker to help survey the boundaries of Washington, D.C. in 1791. Benjamin Banneker corresponded with Thomas Jefferson about slavery. He wrote letters challenging Jefferson's hypocrisy. How could the man who wrote "all men are created equal" continue to own slaves? Banneker's letters were eloquent, logical, devastating critiques of American racism. Jefferson never made these letters public. And here's what happened in the 20th century. Many textbooks either didn't mention Banneker at all, or they attributed his achievements to help from white scientists. They couldn't deny his genius completely, so they diminished it. They claimed he had assistants, that he wasn't really self-taught, that white mentors deserved the credit. All lies. Benjamin Banneker was a self-taught genius who achieved things that most formally educated scientists of his era could not match. And they buried his story because it was too dangerous to the narrative they needed to maintain. Do you see the pattern yet? Thomas Fuller, Benjamin Banneker, Samuel Carter. Every time a black mind demonstrated extraordinary ability, every time someone proved that intelligence had nothing to do with race, they erased the evidence. They buried the story. They made sure future generations would never know. But it gets worse, much worse, because in the 20th century, they turned science itself into a weapon to prove black inferiority. During World War I, the United States Army conducted mass intelligence testing on new recruits. A psychologist named Robert Yerkes designed the tests, and the results were used to justify racial hierarchy for decades. The test showed that 89% of black soldiers scored in the category labeled morons. The Army used these results to claim scientific proof of black intellectual inferiority. These findings were published, taught in universities, used to justify segregation and discrimination. But here's what they didn't tell you. The tests were culturally biased. They asked questions based on knowledge that only white Americans raised with certain privileges would know. They tested familiarity with white American culture, not actual intelligence. And here's the proof they buried. Black soldiers from northern states who had access to better education scored higher than white soldiers from southern states. This completely contradicted the racial narrative. If race determined intelligence, then all black soldiers should score lower than all white soldiers, regardless of geography. But that's not what happened. Education determined scores, not race. But they ignored this evidence. They suppressed it. They continued teaching that the tests proved black inferiority for decades. The same pattern. Evidence of black capability appears. They either erase it completely or manipulate it to support their lies. And this brings us to today, to 2026, to your children and grandchildren sitting in schools right now. Black children make up 15% of students in American schools, but they represent only 9% of students in gifted and talented programs. In schools where the majority of students are black, the gifted programs are still 70% white. Why? The same reasons as always. Teacher bias means white teachers are less likely to recommend black students for gifted programs. The tests used to identify gifted students are culturally biased, just like those World War I IQ tests. And there's something called deficit thinking, where educators assume black students are less capable. The result? Brilliant black children are excluded from advanced programs. They're told they're not smart enough. They're held back. They underachieve not because they lack ability, but because the system suppresses their gifts. Some black students who are exceptionally gifted learn to hide their intelligence. They camouflage their abilities because excelling academically leads to bullying, to being accused of acting white. So they dim their own light to survive socially. This is what they did to Samuel Carter in 1859. Sold him away because his intelligence was too threatening. This is what they did with IQ tests in 1917. Labeled 89% of black soldiers as morons despite evidence to the contrary. This is what they're doing in 2026. Excluding gifted black children from programs that could nurture their abilities. The methods change. The goal stays the same. Keep black minds in chains. Now let me show you exactly how they suppressed these stories. The mechanisms they used to erase Samuel Carter, Thomas Fuller, Benjamin Banneker, and thousands of others from history. First mechanism, physical destruction. They burned records, destroyed documents, eliminated evidence. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe's journals about Samuel Carter were hidden in an attic for over 100 years. Official records were destroyed during the Civil War. If those journals had not survived by accident, Samuel's story would be completely lost, erased as if he never existed. Think about what that means. How many other Samuel Carters were there? How many brilliant minds were documented somewhere, but the documentation was destroyed? We'll never know, because the evidence is gone. They did the same thing to black inventors. Garrett Morgan invented the gas mask and the traffic light. In 1916, he used his gas mask invention to rescue men trapped in a toxic tunnel under Lake Erie. Initially, white newspapers refused to give him credit. When they discovered he was black, they buried the story. Jan Ernst Matzeliger invented a shoe-lasting machine in 1883 that revolutionized the shoe industry. The United Shoe Machinery Corporation bought his patent. Matzeliger died poor at 37 years old. The company made millions. His name was erased from the story. If we can't deny it, we'll destroy the evidence. If we can't destroy it, we'll hide it for 100 years. Second mechanism, legal suppression. They made it illegal to educate black people. In 1740, South Carolina passed the Negro Act, which made it illegal to teach enslaved people to read or write. The penalty was 100 pounds for the teacher. For the enslaved person caught reading, the punishment could be whipping, mutilation, or death. By the 1830s, most southern states had similar laws. This is why Esther Carter had to teach Samuel in secret, writing letters in the dirt and erasing them immediately. She was breaking the law. If caught, she could have been killed. The goal was explicit: keep them ignorant so they stay enslaved. An educated slave was dangerous because education breeds the desire for freedom. But it didn't stop after slavery ended. In 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson made separate but equal legal. Schools were segregated. Black schools received about 10% of the funding that white schools received. Separate was never equal. Even after Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 declared school segregation unconstitutional, many states refused to comply for years. Prince Edward County in Virginia closed all public schools for 5 years rather than integrate. An entire generation of black children, 5 years without schooling. A lost generation created deliberately. If we can't enslave their bodies, we'll enslave their minds by denying education. Third mechanism, educational erasure. Remove stories from textbooks, change the language, rewrite history. The Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 destroyed Black Wall Street, the wealthiest black community in America. Over 300 people were killed, 1,200 homes burned. But this massacre was removed from Oklahoma textbooks for 75 years. 3 generations grew up not knowing it happened. Black inventors were simply not mentioned. Lewis Latimer improved Edison's light bulb. Granville Woods invented over 50 electrical devices. Dr. Charles Drew created the blood bank. Their contributions were minimized or attributed to others. They changed language to soften atrocities. Tulsa Race Riot instead of Tulsa Race Massacre. Servants instead of enslaved people. The words matter because they shape perception. Samuel Carter's story appears in no Louisiana textbooks. Search his name online and you'll find almost nothing. Why? Too dangerous. His existence proves that black children could be geniuses even without formal education. If we control the textbooks, we control the truth. If we control the language, we control the narrative. Fourth mechanism, media manipulation and victim blaming. The Wilmington Massacre of 1898 was the only successful coup in American history. White supremacists violently overthrew a legally elected multiracial government. Between 60 and 300 black people were killed. White newspapers called it the Wilmington Race Riot and blamed black people for starting it. Complete lies. White attackers initiated the violence. They do this today. Trayvon Martin, they said he wore a hoodie. Michael Brown, they said he stole cigarillos. Breonna Taylor, they said her boyfriend shot first. George Floyd, they said he used drugs. Always the same pattern. Make the victim the villain. Protect the system at all costs. If Samuel Carter's story had been reported in 1859 newspapers, they would have called him possessed by demons, accused him of witchcraft, blamed him for the deaths. Never would they admit the truth that a black child genius was exposing white murderers. Now you understand the mechanisms. You see the pattern that spans 400 years. But let me connect this directly to your life today. Because this isn't ancient history. This explains everything happening right now. Start with the wealth gap. The median white household has $188,000 in wealth. The median black household has $24,000, nearly 8 times less. They say black people don't work hard enough. They say it's a culture problem. All lies. Think about Tulsa, 1921. Black Wall Street had more millionaires per capita than Beverly Hills. 35 city blocks destroyed. 300 people murdered. $1.8 billion in today's money stolen. If those families had kept their wealth, your grandparents could have been millionaires. That's your stolen inheritance. The GI Bill after World War II. 16 million veterans got free college, low-interest home loans. White veterans built generational wealth. Black veterans were systematically denied those benefits. That's why white families own homes and black families rent. That's why white neighborhoods thrive and black neighborhoods struggle. Redlining ended in 1968. That's 58 years ago, in your parents' lifetime. Banks refused loans to black neighborhoods, trapping families in poverty. The theft never stopped. They just changed the methods. Reparations? They say slavery was long ago, but Tulsa was 1921. Redlining was 1968. Mass incarceration started in the 1970s and continues today. 1 in 3 black men will go to prison in their lifetime. The 13th Amendment made slavery legal as punishment for crime. They filled prisons with black bodies to create modern slave labor. Economist William Darity calculated what's owed: $10 to $12 trillion. Unpaid slave wages for 246 years. Stolen wealth from Tulsa, Rosewood, Wilmington. Lost opportunities from Jim Crow and redlining. This isn't charity. It's stolen property that must be returned. Your grandmother struggled because her grandparents' wealth was burned. Your uncle couldn't get that business loan because of redlining. Your children attend underfunded schools because of policies designed to keep black minds suppressed, just like Samuel Carter. Gentrification is modern land theft. They call it development. Black neighborhoods get Starbucks and white young professionals. Rent triples. Long-time residents get pushed out. Same as Tulsa, just slower and with better PR. Mass incarceration is modern slavery. Black men are 12% of the population, but 33% of prisoners. Prison labor pays 14 cents an hour to corporations like Walmart and Victoria's Secret. Plantation became prison. Same chains, different name. Police brutality is the modern KKK. Many departments trace lineage to slave patrols. Same function. Control black bodies through terror. 4,000 lynchings from 1877 to 1950. Police killing 1,000 people a year now, disproportionately black. They're banning critical race theory in 18 states because Samuel Carter's story terrifies them today, just like it did in 1859. They banned teaching enslaved people to read then. They're banning true history now. Same fear of black minds. This is why your family rents instead of owns. This is why black neighborhoods lack businesses. This is why the wealth gap exists. They stole $100 trillion over 4 centuries, and they call you lazy. But here's where everything changes. Here's where we reframe your entire identity. You've been lied to your whole life about who you are, and today, that ends. You are not disadvantaged. You are survivors of genocide. You are not victims. You are descendants of warriors. You are not less intelligent. You are descendants of geniuses like Samuel Carter, who terrified them with pure brilliance. You are not poor because you don't work hard. You are heirs to stolen empires. Your ancestors survived the Middle Passage. 10 to 20 million kidnapped from Africa. 15% died on the journey. They ate their dead to survive. Your DNA carries that resilience. Your ancestors built Black Wall Street from nothing in 15 years. More millionaires per capita than anywhere in America. They burned it in 16 hours. But that entrepreneurial spirit is in you. Your ancestors fought in every American war. 600,000 black soldiers in World War II. Fought Nazis abroad while denied GI Bill benefits at home. That courage is your inheritance. Samuel Carter's mother taught him to read while it was punishable by death. Esther Carter risked everything so her son could know truth. That determination flows through your veins. God preserved you through 400 years of attempted extermination. Why? Because you have a mission. You are here to expose the truth they buried. You are here to demand justice for stolen trillions. You are here to reclaim your stolen identity. You are here to build empires greater than Black Wall Street. You are here to ensure your children know their true history. You are the generation they could not break. In the Black church, we've always known this truth. Our grandparents whispered it. Our great-grandparents lived it. Psalm 82 verse 6 says, "I have said, ye are gods." The Most High preserved you through every atrocity because you carry divine purpose. Your poverty was not your failure. It was engineered theft. Your struggle was not weakness. It was evidence of their fear. Your survival was not luck. It was divine appointment. If this truth has shaken you, if you've seen the pattern that spans 4 centuries, if you're done with the lies, drop truth in the comments right now. Hit that like button because you're tired of the erasure. Share this with every family member, every church group, every person who needs to know their true history. This is bigger than one video. There are hundreds more stories like Samuel Carter waiting to be told. Stories of black geniuses erased from history. Stories of stolen wealth. Stories of resilience they can't suppress. Subscribe because we're just getting started. Tell your children this story before schools teach them the lies. Don't let them erase us again. You are now the keeper of this truth. Your family depends on you to preserve it. We're all seeking truth together. This isn't about division. This affects everyone. Injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. Share this with people of all backgrounds. Truth unites us, lies divide us. Father God, we thank you for preserving the truth about Samuel Carter through Dr. Monroe's journals. We thank you for the warriors who came before us, who carried gifts across the ocean despite every attempt to break them. We pray for justice for Esther Carter, who taught her son to read at the risk of death. For the 3 children Marcus Thornton murdered. For Sarah's baby, sold away and left to die crying for his mother. For every black genius whose name was erased. We pray for restoration of the trillions stolen through slavery, Tulsa, redlining, mass incarceration. Lord, you see the theft. You know what's owed. We pray for awakening in your people. Open eyes that have been blinded by lies. Ignite hearts that have been discouraged. Empower minds that have been suppressed. Bless those watching who seek truth. Strengthen those who resist erasure. Vindicate the memory of our ancestors whose stories were buried. Give us courage to demand what's ours, not out of revenge, but out of righteousness. You are Jehovah Jireh, our provider. Restore what the locusts have eaten. In Jesus' name, amen. Walk in this truth. Demand your justice. You are free. Until next time, know your history. Build your wealth. Demand your reparations. Remember the theft. And never let them erase you again.